Fanatics. Welcome to another episode of my true crime story time. I do apologise, I missed last week, but I'm going to make it up to you guys. This case is shocking, okay? And I came across this case because I'm working on my Jack's Teller. He is a character in Sons of Anarchy. In case you don't know, I'm a huge fan of Charlie Hunnam, and to be fair, girls, who isn't? But I have decided to... What I've tried doing is linking somehow the painting that I'm working on to a true crime case. And I came across this case through motorcycles, and as I was looking into it, and it's tragic. He is also known as the Amazon review killer, which I later found out. I have seen an episode of him somewhere. I cannot remember where I saw it, but I sat and watched it and was quite shocked. And it turns out that Todd Kohlhepp is that guy. So I'm going to talk you through this whole case. Grab whatever project you are working on and come join me as we talk about Todd Kohlhepp. So I'm just going to call him Todd because that's his name, but Kohlhepp. Oh dear. Okay, so I'm going to start at the beginning. He was born on the 7th of March in 1971 in Florida, and he was raised in South Carolina and Georgia. His parents divorced when he was 2 years old, and his mother got custody and married another man the following year. Later, psychological reports found that Todd had an unhealthy relationship with his stepfather and often wanted to live with his biological father, who he hadn't seen in 8 years. Todd was described as a troublesome child in nursery school. He was known to be aggressive towards other children and would destroy their property, which is a little bit alarming because Carl had a friend who kept breaking all of his things, and I wonder what happened to him. Okay, moving on. At the age of 9, he started going to counselling, and Todd was described as being, quote, explosive and, quote, preoccupied with sexual content. He also displayed cruelty to animals, shooting a dog with a BB gun, and he also killed a goldfish with Clorox bleach. Todd's father later said the only emotion his son was capable of was anger. Todd spent 3.5 months in a Georgia psychiatric hospital as an inpatient because of his inability to get along with other children. Eventually, in 1983, Todd was sent to live with his biological father in Arizona after his mother and stepfather separated. He took his father's surname and began working a number of local jobs. He also inherited his father's hobby of golf? No. Diamond painting? No. his hobby of collecting weapons. And he was taught by him, quote, to blow things up and make bombs. So you probably know what direction Todd's life is heading in at this point. Despite this, their relationship deteriorated due to his father's absence with a number of girlfriends, and Todd expressed desires to return to his mum, though she reportedly made excuses to extend his stay. On the 25th of November 1986, 15-year-old Todd kidnapped a 14-year-old girl in Arizona. He threatened her with a .22 caliber revolver, brought her back to his home, tied her up, taped her mouth shut, and raped her. Afterwards, he walked her home and threatened to kill her younger siblings if she told anyone about what happened. Todd was charged with kidnapping, sexual assault, and committing a dangerous crime against children. Good on that 14-year-old. In 1987, he pleaded guilty to the kidnapping charge, and all other charges were dropped. Now, we always hear this, okay? What happened to this 14-year-old girl was serious on so many levels. Because he admitted to the kidnapping, the sexual assault and everything else was just dropped and forgotten about, which, one, is not fair on the young girl that endured it, and two, what consequences does this guy suffer and goes on to commit further crimes because of this? He was sentenced to 15 years in prison and registered as a sex offender. According to court records, Todd was diagnosed with borderline personality disorder and had an above-average IQ of 118. The judge in the case said Todd was, quote, very bright and should be advanced academically, but behaviourally and emotionally dangerous, end quote, and likely could not be rehabilitated. Todd's probation officer wrote a similar description in court papers and added that he, quote, felt the world owed him something, end quote. Todd's attorney in the case later went on to say that while defending him, quote, he did not believe his client would go on to harm others, end quote, in the future. During his imprisonment, Todd was initially cited for violations that included some violent behaviour. After turning 20, however, he had no other records of disobedience. In August 2001, Todd was released from prison after serving 14 years and moved to South Carolina, where his mum was living. During his imprisonment, he attended and graduated from Central Arizona College with a bachelor's degree in computer science. From January 2002 to November 2003, he worked as a graphic designer for a company in Spartanburg. He began studying at Greenville Technical College in 2003. Todd transferred to the University of South Carolina Upstate the following year and graduated in 2008 with a Bachelor of Science degree in Business Administration Marketing. Despite being registered as a sex offender, Todd was able to get a real estate license on the 30th of June 2006 after lying about the felony charge on his application. From this, he built a firm that had 12 agents in its employ. He had been recognised as a top-selling agent in the Carolina region. The firm was closed down. We will see why as we move on. He also acquired a private pilot license and several properties out of state. In May 2014, he purchased nearly 100 acres of land located in an area 9 miles from the community of Moore for $305,632. He then set a fence around the property, which cost $80,000. A customer who sold her home to Todd remembered him as extremely outgoing and professional, but noted that he would often talk about his firearms and sometimes subtly used sexual innuendo during their conversations. Conversely, a woman who assisted one of Todd's employees described him as angry and condescending towards her partner. A banker who worked with Todd said he often watched pornographic videos, even at work. Todd frequented a Waffle House restaurant in Roebuck, where his behaviour disturbed the waitresses to the point where the male cook began to take Todd's orders for them. According to this employee, one of the waitresses was Megan Lee McCraw Coxey, who later became one of his victims. On the 6th of November 2003, a customer found 4 people shot dead inside Superbike Motorsports, a motorcycle shop in Chesney. The victims were identified as owner Scott Ponder, service manager Brian Lucas, mechanic Chris Sherbert, and bookkeeper Beverly Guy, who was Scott's mum, the owner. All 4 died from multiple gunshot wounds before Todd confessed to the shootings in 2016. Investigators believed that a gunman armed with a pistol entered the shop from the back and killed Chris Sherbert as he worked. He then killed Beverly Guy in the middle of the showroom, Brian Lucas at the main doorway, and Scott Ponder in the parking lot. According to Scott's wife, Todd was a disgruntled customer who had been in the shop several times. According to Todd's mother, he attempted to return a motorcycle there, but the employees laughed at him and would not return the money he had paid for the motorcycle and embarrassed him for not knowing how to ride one. On August the 31st, 2016, Carla Brown and her boyfriend Charles Carver went missing after they went to clean Todd's residence. Charles was later found dead of multiple gunshots on Todd's property. Interest in the disappearance of Carla and Charles increased as a result of posts on Charles's Facebook account following their disappearance, the unusual nature of which prompted speculation that another party had taken control of his Facebook account. On the 3rd of November, Carla was found by authorities, chained to the wall inside a metal storage container on the property. Investigators had tracked her down after tracing the couple's last known cell phone signals, after which they heard banging noises coming from inside the container. A search of Todd's property recovered Charles's vehicle, which was found in a ravine covered in brush. According to Carla, she witnessed Charles being shot by Todd. Todd's mother claimed Charles was killed for having a, quote, really smart mouth, end quote, which Todd did not like. He also said he kept Carla captive because she did not do anything wrong and that he did not want to hurt her. However, Carla stated to police just after her rescue that Todd had killed Charles because Todd was, quote, mad at her. During her captivity, Carla was raped repeatedly and intimidated into not escaping after having been shown the graves of Todd's other victims. 2 bodies were discovered on Todd's property following his arrest on November 6. They were later identified as husband and wife Johnny Joe Coxey and Megan Lee McCraw Coxey, residents of Spartanburg, who were reported missing on December the 22nd, 2015. They were allegedly hired by Todd to work on his property. And if you remember earlier, Megan worked at the Waffle House and became one of his victims, and that is Megan. She had been killed by a gunshot wound to the head on either Christmas Day or Boxing Day, while Johnny had been killed a week earlier by a gunshot wound to the torso. According to the coroner, they were identified through their extensive tattoos. So let's just go through the victims. I will give you their names and how old they were, which is really sad. Scott Ponder, he owned the Superbike shop. He was 30 years old. Brian Lucas, 29 years old. Chris Sherbert, 26 years old. Beverly, who was Scott's mum, 52 years old. Johnny Joe Coxey, 29 years old. And Megan Lee McCraw Coxey, 26 years old. Carla Brown, 30 years old. She is the only survivor in this story. And Charles David Carver, 32 years old. Todd was arrested shortly after Carla's rescue. He later confessed to the Chesney shootings at the motorbike shop and the murders of Megan and Johnny in exchange for allowing him to talk to his mother, giving her a photograph, and transfer money to the college fund of a friend's child. While meeting with his mother, he reportedly confessed to killings and kidnapping. When he confessed to the Chesney shootings, the motorbike shop, Todd said that he shot each of the victims once in the forehead, a detail in the investigation that was never released to the public. A search of Todd's property also uncovered numerous weapons, including 9mm pistols fitted with suppressors, semi-automatic rifles, and an undetermined amount of ammunition. Because there was no record of a background check under Todd Kohlhepp's name for the purchase of a firearm, investigators believe he likely acquired the weapons illegally. Shortly following Todd's arrest, authorities in Spartanburg County discovered a number of seemingly joking product reviews for various items such as padlocks, shovels, tasers, and gun accessories on Amazon, written by a user simply known as, quote, me. One review about a padlock stated, quote, solid locks, have 5 on a shipping container. Won't stop them, but sure will slow them down till they're too old to care, end quote. Another, written for a folding shovel, read, quote, keep in car for when you have to hide the bodies and you left the full-size shovel at home. Does not come with a midget, which would have been nice, end quote. The reviewer's wish list page was listed as Todd Kohlhepp. Following his arrest, Todd claimed to his mum that there were many other victims aside from the aforementioned. When his mother asked how many, his response was, quote, you do not have enough fingers. During interrogation, he claimed to have shot a victim in Arizona. On November the 18th, 2016, it was reported that the police department in Arizona had begun an investigation into Todd's claim, searching through unsolved homicides in the past 3 decades. They said they would focus on cases dated from 1983 to 1986, when Todd was living with his dad, and also between August 2001, when Todd completed his sentence for kidnapping, and November 2001, when he moved back to South Carolina. On November 25th, 2016, police in Greer, South Carolina, announced that they had named Todd as a person of interest in an unsolved 2003 bank robbery and triple homicide at the local Blue Ridge Savings Bank. This crime was separated from the Chesney shooting by 6 months. However, as of May 16th, 2018, no definitive link between Todd and the killings was established, and Todd has denied any involvement in the case. In December 2017, Todd wrote to the Spartanburg Herald-Journal claiming that he had more victims who had not been discovered. Todd was charged with 4 counts of murder in relation to the Chesney shootings and 1 count of kidnapping in relation to Carla's abduction. He was later charged with 3 additional counts of murder for the murders of Charles, which was Carla's boyfriend, and the Coxies, Megan and Johnny, along with one additional count of kidnapping and 3 counts of possession of a weapon during a commission of a violent crime. Todd's next court appearance was scheduled for January the 19th, 2017, where Todd's attorney waived their right to an appearance. According to a report by WLTX, relatives of the Chesney shooting victims filed a wrongful death lawsuit against him. On the 1st of December, it was announced that Carla also filed a civil lawsuit against him. On May 26, 2017, Todd pleaded guilty to 7 counts of murder, 2 counts of kidnapping, and 1 count of criminal sexual assault, and was sentenced to 7 consecutive life sentences without the possibility of parole, in a plea bargain that spared him from capital punishment. Although his defence swore at his sentencing that there were no other victims to be found, Todd has since repeatedly admitted there were at least 2 other murders. As of August 2018, he is yet to give authorities the details. Todd is currently imprisoned at the Broad River Correctional Institution. In August 2020, some of Todd's belongings went to auction and the proceeds were donated to the victims' families. And there you have another sick individual true crime story time, which is unhinged and despicable in nature. So thank you so much for keeping me company. As always, please do leave your thoughts and comments down in the comment section, and let me know what you think. Have you ever heard of Todd Kohlhepp? As always, stay safe out there. Bye.